One of the most popular Flash game websites back in my elementary school days, and still today, was PrimaryGames. PrimaryGames has a top 10 games list on the home page, which ranked games based on current popularity, and back in the early 2010s it was almost certain that one game was at the top of that list. And that game was Dune Buggy. Nowadays, Dune Buggy isn't at the top anymore, but it's still really high up there, currently at number 4. So on this episode of Flash Game Reviews, I'm gonna dive deep into this simple game, find out more about its history, and maybe why it got so popular. On the surface, it seems like not a lot is known about Dune Buggy's development and release. On the title screen, there isn't even a copyright date or anything. However, there is a link to the developer's website, which supplies a lot of interesting info in its About Us page. Dune Buggy was created by a small development studio in Russia called Icecap, a studio that is still active to this day. The studio, of 10 people, founded in 2005, specializes in Flash and mobile games. Their first Flash game was Bike Mania, made for a website called
FlashGames247.com.
Bike Mania, which has a very unfortunate acronym, controls similarly to Dune Buggy, but even more simplistic and, well, just worse. From then, Icecap made dozens of tilty games, as they call them, based on improved versions of Bike Mania's engine, with Dune Buggy being one of them. Like I said earlier, Dune Buggy doesn't have a release date anywhere in-game, and the game doesn't have a page on Icecap's website, nor on the Icecap wiki. So, I decided to use the contact page on their website and email staff member Dmitry Pavlenko to ask when the game was released. I got a response, and he expressed his surprise that the game was 13 years old, released in 2006. So huge shoutouts to Dmitry for responding to my email, because like I said in my run video, documentation on Flash games is quite rare usually. But now, with that surprisingly long backstory out of the way, let's get to talking about the game itself. Dune Buggy was created in a partnership with Miniclip, which is made very clear by the Miniclip branding on the buggy itself and the links to miniclip.com in the game. On the title screen, there are some things of varying helpfulness, including the option to change between a high quality or fast gameplay mode, of which I see barely any difference in, and the how to play screen, which shows you the controls and all the basics of getting a better score. If you've never played Dune Buggy, you've definitely at least played a game that controls just like it. It's like Happy Wheels, but with less blood, exactly one less level editor, and less YouTubers becoming huge solely because of it. Up arrow key moves the buggy forward, down arrow is reverse, and left and right arrow keys lean. You can also jump by pressing the spacebar. The game takes place in 3 environments cycling through 15 levels: dirt, snow, and mountain. You control a dune buggy and have to reach the finish line to complete each level. Most levels also have a checkpoint, which allows you to respawn at it if you die. At the top of the screen while playing, there is a health meter, your lives count, and a radar that shows the level, which is almost completely useless. There are only 3 ways to die in the game: losing all your health, commonly caused by your buggy landing upside down on the ground, which will cause you to explode, falling down a hole, or running out of time, which is a rare occurrence since the time limit is very generous. At the end of a level, your score will be calculated based on how many stars you collected, which add points, how many skulls you collected, which subtract points, how many flips you did, how long you drove at a high speed, and your remaining time and health. You start the game with 10 lives and receive a 1-up for each level you complete. There are various power-ups to assist you, such as health restoring items, items that make you giant or small, which annoyingly completely stop your momentum when they expire, slow-mo, which is basically just there so that you can do more. And then there's one that just turns you into a wheel. I don't know why this is the thing, but it's actually really overpowered because you can't get hurt while using it, and there's no time limit unlike the other power-ups. There are also different ground effects to drive over, like speed boosters and speed-int boosters, bouncy springs, and ground that increases or decreases your wheel size. Bigger wheels are useful for dealing with bumpy terrain, and these also work while using the wheel power-up. With regards to difficulty, I remember this game being a lot harder when I was a kid. I would always get stuck at level 8 because of these stairs. And when playing later on, I would get stuck around level 13. But when recording footage for this review, I beat it first try. Also, Dune Buggy is really short. It took me only 20 minutes to complete, which is perfect for a Flash game like this. Gotta say, seeing this end screen after years of never being able to beat this game as a kid feels really great. The controls and physics can be pretty annoying though. The buggy feels difficult to control effectively. I went and played some other tilty games to compare, and yeah, a lot of them feel much better to control than Dune Buggy. Also, jumping can be a bit finicky. Sometimes when you try to jump while driving forward, your buggy will instead flip over. And there's also this weird trick I discovered where if you press space as soon as you land on the ground, you'll jump insanely high. You can keep doing this and gain even more height. I have decided to name this technique buggy bouncing, and it's pretty much useless. It's pretty fun to see how high you can jump though. This game actually kinda reminds me of an old NES or arcade game. It's all about getting a high score, the gameplay is simple, and there's no save function to speak of. However, unlike many classic 8-bit games, this game's graphics and sound have not aged well. Sure, it's nostalgic, but the graphics are JPEG-y and not stylized at all. I'm sure this looked impressive for a browser game back in 06, though now it just looks dated. And the music, well, the title and result screen song is pretty nice, but the main level theme that you hear for the majority of the game is the same 22-second rock guitar loop over and over. Yeah, I counted, it's only a 22-second loop. It's not unplayably bad or anything, but it gets irritating pretty quick. And that's Dune Buggy. It has plenty of flaws, like the outdated graphics, mildly irritating level music, strange physics, shameless self-promotion, the list goes on. Though even with all that, I still love this game. It's definitely mostly for nostalgia reasons, but really, it's pretty good for a Flash game from its time, and was fun to revisit for this review. This is one of those games that could really benefit from a remake. One with more levels, improved physics, better, more stylized graphics, and a longer than 22-second music loop. But now, I have a request of you. Remember how at the beginning of the video I said that this game was always #1 on PrimaryGames? Well, I doubt this will actually work, but let's see if we can get it back to the top, together. Go play Dune Buggy on PrimaryGames if you can, the link is in the description. It would be really cool to see this nostalgic game regain its #1 spot. Again, if you have any suggestions for the next Fidger video, leave a comment and I'll consider it. Next time, I'll be taking a look at the first installment of a very popular Flash game series that may or may not have something to do with ducks. And life, I guess. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for that.